Psychopaths are human predators. They coerce, manipulate, lie, steal, defraud, abuse, and, in extreme cases, take lives without experiencing guilt or remorse. Their lack of empathy and genuine emotions makes them masters of deception and manipulation. Robert Hare, one of the leading authorities on psychopathy, estimates that around 1% of the population meets the criteria for being diagnosed as a psychopath, while psychologist Martha Stout suggests this figure could be as high as 4%. Studies also indicate that psychopaths are overrepresented in high executive positions in politics, where their emotional coldness and ability to act without scruples allow them to climb the ranks of power without moral constraints. In this video, we will explore the psychology of the psychopath, as understanding their nature can help us minimize the harm they can inflict on us, those around us, and humanity in general. Compared to other severe clinical disorders, little systematic research has been devoted to psychopathy, despite it being responsible for far more suffering and social disruption than all other psychiatric disorders combined. Psychopaths exist at all levels of society, and there is a high probability that at some point you will have a painful or humiliating encounter with one. Your best defense is to understand the nature of these human predators. When we think of psychopaths, names like Ted Bundy, Charles Manson, or Jeffrey Dahmer often come to mind. And while these figures represent an extreme of psychopathy, most psychopaths do not commit violent crimes. Instead, they engage in immoral acts that escape the radar of the criminal justice system. They emotionally abuse their relatives, neglect the well-being of those close to them, scam, pathologically lie, and manipulate for personal gain. Their coldness and calculated indifference allow them to exploit others without the slightest pang of conscience, making them stealthy predators hidden in plain sight. Psychiatrist Hervé Cleekly, in his book The Mask of Sanity, describes how psychopaths can mimic human emotions without actually experiencing them. They are experts at reading others and reflecting what they believe people want to see. But behind that facade lies a person incapable of forming genuine bonds. It is this ability to camouflage that makes them particularly dangerous. Many people know nothing about this disorder, or if they do, they think only in terms of individuals who have repeatedly broken the law and who, if caught, will end up in prison. The reality is that most psychopaths are not incarcerated. They are out here in the world, among us. The reason most people avoid exploiting and harming others lies in conscience. We experience empathy, feel guilt when we cause suffering, and are emotionally affected by the misfortunes of others. Psychopaths lack all of this. They do not feel love, friendship, or genuine emotional connections. To them, people are not individuals with intrinsic value but objects to be possessed, exploited, and discarded at convenience. Their inner world is not governed by emotional bonds or a sense of moral duty, but by an emotional void that is only filled with control, manipulation, and the exercise of power over others. Even the most seasoned and hardened professionals find a psychopath's reaction to a shocking event bewildering, or how they describe brutal acts with absolute indifference, as if talking about peeling an apple or gutting a fish. But if the psychopath is a creature devoid of empathy, what drives them? In the absence of emotional connections, their inner life is dominated by the pursuit of pleasure and constant stimulation. Many are addicted to alcohol, drugs, sex, or high-risk situations. However, the greatest stimulus for a psychopath is power. It does not matter whether they are a career criminal, an unemployed individual living off others, a middle manager, a CEO, a financier, a bureaucrat, or a politician. Their mind is obsessed with controlling others. Their favorite game is domination, and their lack of guilt or empathy makes them ruthless competitors who do not hesitate to destroy others if it guarantees them a victory. Neuroscientist Kent Kiehl, author of The Psychopath Whisperer, explains that psychopaths' brains exhibit abnormalities in the limbic system and the amygdala, the regions responsible for processing emotions like fear and empathy. These biological differences may explain why psychopaths do not respond emotionally like most people. The prize to be won can range from world domination to a free lunch, but it is always about the same game: controlling, making others react, winning. Although psychopathy has been primarily studied in men, it also occurs in women, though with different manifestations. Female psychopaths often resort to more subtle manipulation strategies, such as emotional deception, seduction, and blackmail, rather than direct violence. Research by criminologist Amanda L.P. and psychologist Natasha Gazelle has noted that, due to their ability to disguise their lack of empathy with apparent vulnerability or charm, female psychopaths can be even more difficult to detect than their male counterparts. From our perspective, the psychopath suffers from a severe mental disorder, but to them, their condition is not a flaw but an evolutionary advantage. They do not feel guilt, fear, or anxiety. They are convinced that this places them in a superior position in a world governed by the law of the strongest. As Ted Bundy once said, "Guilt is an unhealthy social control mechanism that does terrible things to the body." The danger of psychopaths is magnified when they reach positions of power, as their lack of scruples and superficial charisma allow them to manipulate the masses with ease. Psychiatrist Andrei Voboshevsky warns of this in his work Political Ponerology. Pathocracy progressively paralyzes all aspects of social life: the economy, culture, science, technology, and administration. In conclusion, psychopaths are not just violent criminals. They are among us, hidden behind a mask of normality. Identifying them and understanding how they operate is essential to protecting ourselves and avoiding falling into their webs of manipulation. Education about psychopathy is one of the most powerful tools to minimize their impact on society. What do you think about this topic? Have you ever met someone with these traits? Share your experience in the comments, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can continue exploring the human mind together.